I love the name right off the bat. And off we went, and we grabbed Christian, who, much like Scott, was a reluctant superstar automatically. And he was just a natural.
Yeah, he wanted in, but he had that. He beat that whole grunge attitude by a good decade. Like he wasn't gonna dance or entertain or kowtow to the audience. He was a great singer and a great stage presence, but he definitely had this kind of apathy. Like, I'm not here to to do like a soft shoe for y'all.
No, didn't he? God, I just remember that first trip to Sudsy Malone's. Setting up on the floor, there was no stage, no bleachers. There were booths, and
yeah,
it was like the grungiest coffee bar you ever went into. That kind of vibe.
Yeah, the late great Sudsy Malone's. The building was recently actually brought down.
Razzed.
There. No longer there. But you're right. When you stepped in the front door to the left, where they did later build a stage, there was no stage. You just went in, turned to your left, and set up there, and that's where you played. In front of that was kind of a raised area with like a fence around it with booths. And I think the bleachers
was set up like an old, like a Italianette or something.
Yeah, and the bleachers came much later, because behind the bleachers they then had a raised platform for a soundboard, and that is before the bleachers, before the raised platform for the soundboard, before the stage. That is where the Speed Hickeys played our very first gig.
And there was a wall to separate the washers and dryers from the actual bar. And that's where the bleachers ended up.
And before all that, when Bratfish was still a thing, because I know we're going back and forth here chronologically, but we're still in that like 84, 85, 86 era. When we were Bratfish playing parties, as you said, all around Westchester, and many of these were outdoor, like back porch parties, and people had some pretty big backyards out in the country, where we would sometimes play for 100, 200. I don't know if we ever played a party where there's 300 or 400 people, but I wouldn't be surprised if we did, because a lot of those keggers, like a ton of people would show up for those things.
Yeah.
And you're right. We would play for a bunch of people for about 25 minutes, because the cops generally came and shut us down. And after Jeff Haddays, was out of the picture, we got your brother Chuck on drums. And I want to get Chuck in on one of these Zoom calls. The next time we do this, it should be the three of us on screen, and maybe Scott Burchett too, so we can get some more Bratfish memories. And
yeah, well, we'll see if that'll fly with.
But what happened when we were Bratfish playing down in Scotty's basement, playing a lot of parties, but primarily, I would say a good 50% of the parties we played were right there in Scott's basement.
And that was, because I'd get off work at Thriftway Food and Drug, bagging groceries after school, and head to band practice. And didn't we practice like every night? Almost.
It was a lot. It was because it was the place to hang out anyway. Before the drums and amps and instruments were in Scotty's basement, we were over there watching movies. I want to say that he and his brother had, this like massive VHS collection and cable TV, and we had the luxury of like watching cool different movies almost every day. That's where we were hanging out even before we were a band.
Yeah, and well after, and all points in between.
And basically, long story short, Well, we can get into as much
Right.
we can get into as much or as little detail about this as you want, but basically there was a girl that I was seeing then, and Scotty slept with her. And that at least at that time in my life, that was a good way to get yourself like removed from my band. And as a matter of fact, I don't know if that's really changed. I think that I'm going to stand by that as like that's a deal breaker.
That happened. Well, that happened with Outhouse. A girl who I was seeing. I hadn't gone that far yet.
Yeah.
And Bill came around and said, "Yo, yeah, I fucked her."
Yeah.
And I
Now
was
we're
like,
getting ahead of ourselves. Outhouse?
"Well, Bill, you're not out of the band, but that girl's out."
Outhouse. Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that, all the sordid details, or at least some sketchy details, and leave the rest to the viewer's imagination. But Scotty,
Yeah,
I'm
I'll
happy
get
to
in,
say
I'll get in on playing some after a while.
that's
No,
good. That's when it's going to get really good. We're about to enter our true minimalist phase.